Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for October the 19th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry, hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week. It is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But some news broke late in the week last week that a lot of people found very interesting, or perhaps even a bit frightening. Phil Spencer says Xbox does not have to ship Bethesda games on other platforms to be successful. Xbox head and executive vice president of gaming at Microsoft, Phil Spencer, talked about Microsoft's next-gen strategy, its upcoming consoles, and the acquisition of ZeniMax Media in an interview with Kotaku. When directly asked whether Microsoft could recoup its $7.5 billion investment without shipping The Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation 5, Spencer responded yes. He then provided a little more clarity while saying he did not want to be flippant. Quote, "This deal was not done to take games away from another player base like that. Nowhere in the documentation that we put together was, how do we keep other players from playing these games? We want more people to be able to play games, not fewer people to be able to go play games. But I'll also say in the model, I'm just answering directly the question you had. When I think about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass in our console base, I don't have to go ship those games on any other platform other than the platforms that we support in order to kind of make the deal work for us, whatever that means." End quote. While Time PlayStation 5 exclusives Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are being honored as pre-existing deals, it seems more and more likely that if gamers want to play new Bethesda games, they will need to invest in the Xbox ecosystem to some extent. Microsoft previously confirmed that all new Bethesda titles, including big upcoming games like Starfield, will launch day and date into Xbox Game Pass, while the existing library is also going to be added. With the addition of Bethesda Softworks to the existing Xbox Game Studios family, a move that has been described as being based on relationships, there are now 23 first-party Xbox studios. Regardless of what happens with other platforms, it is clear players on Xbox Series X and Series S can look forward to a steady stream of games over the next generation. Very interesting statement here from Phil Spencer, and this goes against what I thought this deal would do for Microsoft. I thought this was just going to provide additional sources of revenue, because why would you lock down a game on one system when you can release it across this giant spectrum of consoles and platforms so that anybody can play it anywhere? Because that felt like the kind of move that Microsoft was attempting to make throughout the lead up to the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. Now, of course, on the flip side, if you do want to provide value to those Xbox players and to PC players and to entice people to come into your ecosystem, then it certainly makes sense to bring more people into that system by providing very good exclusives. And that seems to be the route that Microsoft is leaning towards here after this statement from Phil Spencer. Now, it is important to note, this has not been confirmed. The Elder Scrolls 6 isn't necessarily locked down to Xbox and PC, but the more time goes by, the more that I'm thinking that very well could be the case. And on Twitter over the weekend, I saw a lot of people talking about this, and I think that one person really hit the nail on the head, and I apologize, I can't remember who said it, but on Twitter, right now, we are leading up to a new console launch on both Sony and Microsoft sides. And you don't want negative press. You don't want backlash going into a new console generation. And so to announce console exclusivity for a very large family of games that millions around the world enjoy isn't necessarily the kind of topic you want to have to address in interviews leading up to your newest piece of hardware going to market. So I expect that if we do have some kind of announcement officially locking Bethesda games down on Xbox platforms and PC, that will probably come sometime in 2021, probably closer to when we see a big game like Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield come out. Of course, Starfield is coming before the Elder Scrolls 6, so that is probably going to be the first time that we really have an opportunity to see if Xbox goes all the way and makes it a console exclusive for the Xbox family. But again, it really is a dog-eat-dog world. You know, you can see a lot of corporate social media accounts joking back and forth on social media, but at the end of the day, these two companies are going head-to-head for your money this holiday season and your money for the next 5 to 10 years as you enjoy this next console generation. They have to convince you one way or the other to go with one box or the other, unless you're one of the few lucky ones that can get both. And so they are certainly trying to get you on board. So we'll see what happens with this in the next few years. But again, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are still being honored, so you can look forward to those if you do have a PlayStation 5 pre-ordered, or if you want to play some PlayStation 4 games. I believe these might be coming out on PlayStation 4. Either way, regardless, you know what I'm saying. A couple of more games coming out on the PlayStation side of things, but it looks like that could be shaking up shortly. Now, another pretty big piece of news came over the weekend. Marvel's Avengers next-gen console update will not arrive until 2021. You will need to wait until sometime next year to play Marvel's Avengers in its full glory on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. The game won't be fully optimized for those consoles until 2021. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix previously said the upgrade, which is free for those who bought the game on PS4 and Xbox One, would be available during the holiday season. Crystal Dynamics studio head Scott Amos wrote in a blog post that the decision was made to ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience showcasing all that this game is meant to be. You will still be able to play the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One versions on their sibling consoles, and they will get a couple of boosts in the form of higher frame rates and faster loading times. You can carry forward your game save data and still play co-op missions with friends on the respective older console. The studio is also pushing back the rollout of the first post-launch hero, Kate Bishop. She was supposed to make her bow later this month, and the delay does not seem too extensive, thankfully, but there is no specific date for her arrival. We are sorry for this slight delay, but we are dedicated as a team to quality first, Amos wrote. Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, will soon join the lineup as well. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is supposed to land on the PlayStation versions of Marvel's Avengers early next year. The studio plans to reveal more about the future of the game next month. Amos gave some indication of what is on the way in the near future, including a ping system that will let you instruct AI teammates to smash through doors or target certain enemies. There will also be an option to replay the campaign with your character's level and loadouts intact. Crystal Dynamics has added more late-game content in recent weeks, including new types of missions. Soon you can try your hand at limited-time multiplayer challenges as well. The first Omega level thread mission will reward you with an exotic drop the first time you complete it. Amos acknowledged the game has had some difficulties, though said the developers had resolved several systemic issues that were creating a number of game crashes or freezes over the last several weeks. The studio is working with Nvidia to fix some PC performance issues as well, and as a thank you for toughing things out, Crystal Dynamics is giving players a bundle of digital goodies, including enough credits to buy a legendary skin of their choice from the marketplace. This game is weird. Okay, going into the Marvel's Avengers launch, I thought this was going to be a game that just continued to sell and it would be a top seller for the next few years, honestly, because the Avengers is such a huge name. And over the weekend, we also found out that it has now fallen out of the top 10 in the UK at least, and that's kind of shocking because, again, it's Marvel's Avengers. It's a game built around this entire giant Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so to see it not doing as well as a lot of people thought, definitely is a bit of a shocker. Now we have this news that the next gen version won't launch until sometime in 2021. Of course, it will see a resurgence then, but will there still be interest? It depends on how big the next gen update really is and the improvements that it makes. Of course, you will see a couple of boosts as this article mentions on the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. But ultimately, kind of a shocker to see that Marvel's Avengers will not be out in time for the holiday season on the next-gen consoles, but hey, better than having a bad update for sure. Now, of course, this is a follow-up story for something we talked about last week. Sony has clarified how PlayStation 5's voice chat recording will work, and just as I thought, not quite the Orwellian future that we thought. When PS4 Firmware Update 8.0 was released earlier last week, users became privy to the fact you could record voice chat, leading some to believe this provided Sony with the ability to monitor conversations. In a blog post, Sony explained this was not the case at all, as the feature is only for PlayStation owners, allowing them to record voice chat for moderation purposes. Sony apologized for not clearly communicating the new feature and explained why it was introducing it. According to Sony, the new feature was implemented for online safety and will allow users to accurately report abuse or harassment if they experience it while on PlayStation Network. The feature will not actively monitor or listen in on conversations. Once PlayStation 5 launches, users will be able to record a 40-second long chat clip, which can be used to file a harassment report. Only the most recent 5 minutes of the voice chat will be available for a player to use for this reporting, and they will be able to use 20 seconds of the main conversation plus 10 seconds before and after the conversation selected. Reports can be submitted directly through the console and sent to Sony's consumer experience team for moderation. When PS5 launches, users will be able to chat with PlayStation 4 users, which is why the function was included with the latest PS4 system update. There will not be an option to opt out of this function because Sony wants all users to, quote, feel safe when playing with others online, not just those who choose to enable it, end quote. Again, I'm going back to the point that I made on Friday. If you're not doing anything wrong, then you don't have anything to worry about. If you're just trash talking with your friends, you're going to be perfectly fine. But if you are actively harassing people online, then this is just holding you accountable. And I don't really have a problem with that, personally. I know that some people are very much so into having as much privacy as possible, but ultimately, there is no free speech portion you can claim here. There is no free speech right for a service provided by a private company. They can moderate their chats how they will. That was something that somebody commented on Friday. But if you were curious as to how this feature was actually being implemented, there you have it. Now, speaking of PlayStation 5 features, its fans will be adjusted with firmware updates, a very cool feature that is certainly going to improve the console's performance in the future. We already know that the PlayStation 5 is a massive console because it requires an advanced cooling system. So much so that Sony spent 2 years developing and researching a liquid metal cooling unit for the CPU. The previous teardown revealed the massive double-sided fan, which was used to disperse heat throughout the console and spit it out on the top of the device. However, it seems the fan is a lot more advanced than we thought. According to Sony, they plan on adjusting it in the years ahead through firmware updates. Speaking with 4Gamer.net, PlayStation's Yasuhiro Otori, nailed it, revealed that the company will optimize the fan speed in the future. Otori claims the PS5 has 3 temperature sensors on the main board that controls the fan speed. The fan spins at a certain speed depending on the internal temperature of the APU and the highest temperature of the 3 sensors. These sensors will let Sony gather data regarding how hot the console gets during which games, and the company can optimize the speed as they learn more about the user's environment. In short, Sony can turn down the fans after learning how they perform in certain games. In addition, the company can also increase them if the system starts running hotter than usual. The PS4 included a similar sensor to detect the heat of the console. However, these sensors could not collect data and send it back to Sony in order to adjust the fan speed as the PS5 can. While many users won't even notice this going on, it is nice to know Sony has thought of everything when it comes to the cooling of the PlayStation 5. So, this is definitely going to optimize your cooling performance, and it's a fantastic addition to the PlayStation 5 hardware. Of course, this console is absolutely massive, and of course, the fan is a big part of that. So it is good to see that they have taken cooling very seriously, especially after the debacle with the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro, which does run incredibly loudly depending on the kind of console you have. A late generation version is a little bit more optimized, earlier generation version just a little bit loud. Now, of course, both of these new consoles are running incredibly smoothly, and you could be playing Rainbow Six Siege on an Xbox Series X that, of course, will run incredibly silently. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege may be added to Xbox Game Pass soon, a cryptic tweet has suggested. Over on the official Xbox Game Pass Twitter account, a new image has been posted that appears to suggest Ubisoft's tactical shooter will be added to the service soon. The tweet embedded below presents a teaser featuring 6 rainbows and what appears to be pictures of a siege. Launched way back in 2015, Rainbow Six Siege has maintained steady popularity and is one of Ubisoft's most successful multiplayer titles. Supported by frequent updates and a massive community, the game shows no signs of dying off as we approach a new console generation. Ubisoft intends to have Rainbow Six Siege playable on both the PlayStation 5 and the Series X at launch, so adding the game to Xbox Game Pass now could see a whole new crop of players join the game for a new generation. Though the tweet above seems pretty obvious, there has been no formal announcement from either Microsoft or Ubisoft about the game joining the subscription service, but you can expect the confirmation sooner rather than later. I would expect this sometime this week. This is phenomenal, and I'm excited about this because of the fact that ultimately Game Pass is providing players a huge amount of games to play on day one. And Rainbow Six Siege is one of this generation's biggest games, and it is getting enhancements for the next generation. It is essentially going to be a brand new game with new lighting, with a lot of new enhancements that are really taking advantage of this next gen hardware. And so as a game that continues to provide so much value, so many years into its life, I just can't help but be happy about the fact that this is coming to Game Pass. Now the question is, will it come to Game Pass for console and PC? That would be pretty impressive. The word doubtful comes to mind because of the way that Ubisoft traditionally does games on PC, but it very well is possible. Of course, the game is very popular on PC, but it is incredibly popular on consoles as well. Very big professional scene in addition to that. So we'll see if this is in fact true, but you can probably expect some kind of announcement later in the week. But it looks like even more games are coming to Xbox One this month via Game Pass. Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, and Full Throttle remasters are all coming to the service. Double Fine Productions remasters of 3 classic LucasArts adventure games, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, and Full Throttle, will be available October 29th to Xbox Game Pass subscribers, studio head Tim Schafer announced during an interview with Larry Major Nelson Herb on the Xbox podcast. Game Pass members will be able to play the trio of games on Android with Game Pass Ultimate, Windows 10 PC, and Xbox One. Android availability indicates that the games will also be streamable via Microsoft's xCloud service, which launched last month as part of Game Pass Ultimate. All 3 titles will also be released on the same day, October 29th, as standalone games on the Xbox One for $14.99 each. This will mark the debut of these 3 remasters on Xbox One. They were initially released as PlayStation exclusives on PS4 and PS Vita, with versions also on iOS, Linux, Mac, and PC. Schafer, who himself was one of the lead devs on all 3 of the original games at LucasArts, announced in May that the remasters were on their way to Xbox One. Microsoft announced at E3 2019 that it had acquired Double Fine, which is largely why this is happening. Grim Fandango Remastered received its brush up in 2015, with Day of the Tentacle Remastered a year after that, and Full Throttle Remastered following in 2017. The original games were published during the 1990s, and the faithful remasters brought the adventures of Bernard, Benoli, Manny Calavera, and Ben the Biker Gang leader to a new generation of players. Now Game Pass customers will be able to dig into some classic adventure game action without shelling out an extra buck. Personally, I'm not really into these classics. They never really did vibe with me. It's kind of a point-and-click adventure in a way for a lot of these. Grim Fandango a bit different, but Full Throttle certainly does have that kind of gameplay. But ultimately, it is what it is. If you do want to dig into these classics, they are coming to Game Pass, or if you just want to buy them on Xbox One, you can get them for $15, and of course, everything is backward compatible going into the next generation. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what stories caught your eye today. But specifically, how do you feel about Phil Spencer saying that Xbox does not have to release Bethesda games on their next gen hardware? Would love to see what you're thinking about that one. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.